Today, we're breaking down a new and possibly one of the most important gaming lawsuits filed in the United States. The people of the state of New York versus Valve Corporation, the company behind Steam, Counter-Strike, Dota 2, and Team Fortress 2. This case is about whether loot boxes are illegal gambling, and whether one of the largest gaming platforms in the world has been running a digital casino, including for kids. By the end of this video, hopefully you'll understand what New York is accusing Valve of, how loot boxes are being legally framed as gambling, why Steam's marketplace is a huge part of the case, what Valve could be forced to change, and how this could impact gacha games like Genshin Impact and Epic 7, and any game that has a loot box-like interaction. Note that this is a summary of a legal filing and not yet established facts. Let's start with the nature of the action. What is this case about? This lawsuit was filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James on behalf of the people of the state of New York. The core accusation is simple but explosive. Valve illegally operated gambling systems through loot boxes in its games. New York argues that Valve charges real money or a random chance to win virtual items that have real-world monetary value, and a system designed to encourage repeated spending. Under New York law, that combination equals illegal gambling. The lawsuit specifically targets loot boxes in Counter-Strike, Dota 2, and Team Fortress 2, and it argues this system has generated tens of millions of dollars from New Yorkers alone. So what about parties and jurisdiction? Who is suing who and why New York? Well, the plaintiff is the people of the state of New York, represented by the Attorney General. The defendant is Valve Corporation, a Washington-based company that owns Steam, publishes major PC games, controls the Steam wallet and Steam marketplace. New York says it has jurisdiction because Valve sells games and items to New Yorkers. Valve processes payments from New Yorkers. Valve takes commissions on virtual item sales involving New Yorkers. And Valve allegedly violated New York's constitution and penal laws while doing so. This case is brought under Executive Law 6312, a powerful tool that lets the Attorney General go after ongoing illegal business practices, not just one-off violations. And now we can talk about the factual allegations, the core of the case. This is the heart of the lawsuit and is quite large. First, we will talk about New York's gambling laws and why this matters. New York has some of the strictest anti-gambling laws in the country. Under New York law, gambling happens when you risk something of value on a game of chance with the hope of winning something of value. New York explicitly bans lotteries, casino-style games, any unapproved gambling systems. Valve does not have a gambling license in New York. Next is Valve and Steam's market power. Valve isn't a small indie studio. According to the filing, Steam controls roughly 74% of the PC game distribution market. Steam has over 130 million monthly users. And Steam processes payments via Steam Wallet, gift cards, and credit cards. And Steam takes a cut of nearly every transaction. This matters because Valve controls the games, the loot boxes, the odds, the marketplace, and the money flow. Next is how loot boxes work, the plain English version. So here's how Valve's loot box system works. Players earn or buy a loot box. To open it, they must buy a key, usually around $2.49 plus tax. The item they receive is random. Most items are cheap and common. Rare items can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The lawsuit points out something important. If players just wanted the item, it could be cheaper to buy it directly on the marketplace. Players aren't paying for items, they're paying for the chance. Next talks about odds, rarity, and psychological design. They state Valve assigns rarity tiers, blue, purple, red, gold, makes the rarest items extremely unlikely, publicly labels them as exceedingly rare, uses animations similar to slot machines, shows near misses where the spinner almost lands on a rare item. The lawsuit compares this directly to casino mechanics, including things like random number generation, near-miss psychology, repeated rapid spending, visual excitement unrelated to gameplay. And next we'll talk about virtual items having real value. And this is a big part of this lawsuit. Valve argues that items are just cosmetic, but New York strongly disagrees. The lawsuit shows that items can be sold on the Steam community market. Valve takes a 15% commission on every sale. That items can be converted into Steam Wallet funds, and that Steam Wallet funds can buy real hardware, and that real hardware can then be resold for cash. The complaint even describes investigators converting skins into real-world money using Steam's own systems. In other words, virtual items function like financial assets. Next in the case is third-party markets and speculation. They claim Valve didn't just allow resale, it designed Steam to support it. They state that Valve provides trade URLs, encourages third-party trading, allows cash out through external markets, tracks prices like stock charts, and knows that items sell for tens or hundreds or thousands of dollars. The lawsuit compares the skins market to stocks, crypto, digital investment assets, and argues Valve benefits from speculation because it drives more loot box openings. Lastly is children and harm. They claim that loot boxes are popular with children and teenagers. Gambling exposure at a young age increases addiction risk, and that Valve's games are widely played by minors, and that loot box opening is separate from gameplay, making it pure monetization. New York argues this isn't accidental, it's part of the business model. So moving on from factual allegations, we can get to the causes of action. What laws Valve allegedly broke. The complaint lists 3 causes of action. First is illegal gambling under New York penal law, advancing and profiting from unlawful gambling. Second is violations of the New York Constitution, operating prohibited gambling schemes. And third is persistent fraud or illegality, ongoing business practices that break state law. This isn't about one bad loot box, it's about a systemic business model. And what about the prayer for relief, or what New York is asking for? Well, New York is asking the court to stop Valve from offering loot boxes in New York, force changes to how virtual items are sold, order restitution to affected players, require disgorgement of profits, impose penalties and oversight, and grant any additional relief the court finds appropriate. This could mean fundamental changes to Steam. So what happens next? Let's talk about timeline and process. Well, in the short term, Valve will likely file a response or possibly a motion to dismiss. Expect jurisdiction and definition fights, and discovery here could be massive. In the midterm, we could see possible settlement discussions, court rulings on whether loot boxes legally equal gambling. And in the long term, this case could take years, 2 to 5 years. Appeals are almost guaranteed if settlements aren't reached. Other states can join or file similar actions. New York often acts as a test case. And what does this mean for gacha games? Games like Genshin, Epic 7, etc. Well, this is where things could get scary for the industry. If New York wins, any game with paid randomized rewards that can be converted into value or influence secondary markets could face legal challenges. Games like Genshin Impact, Epic 7, Fate Grand Order, Honkai, and future gacha titles may need age restrictions, odds disclosure, which many already have, spending caps, or outright bans in certain states. This case doesn't just target Valve, it targets the entire monetization model. So here's some final thoughts. This lawsuit isn't anti-gaming, it's anti-unregulated digital gambling. At least that's how they're putting it. And whether you love or hate loot boxes, this case could reshape monetization, redefine digital ownership, and change how games are designed going forward. And we'll be following every filing, because this one definitely matters. So give me a follow or a sub if you want to stay up to date, and I'll see you next time.